Welcome back, everybody, to Party Chat Sports. It's your host, Caleb Gill, along with your other two hosts here at Party Chat Sports. We got Drew Nelson, we got Cam Braun. Dylan Schroeder unable to join us this week, but hopefully he's going to, he's doing work, finance stuff and whatever.
He thinks he's important.
I
He's
know.
not important.
Just a vice president, whatever, no big deal. He should have some content Steelers related up.
Oh, man.
Gesundheit.
Detonated my ears.
Sorry about
But hopefully he does get some content up on the YouTube feed that's Steelers related, probably some sort of Steelers recap season episode later this week on YouTube. And speaking of season recap, that's kind of where we're going with this episode. We're going to recap the 2023 NFL season and what an interesting season it was in many ways. We'll get into our award predictions, and then we'll talk playoffs. Yes, I said playoffs. Again, 2023, pretty interesting. A lot of storylines. We'll see what we're able to remember. I mean, it's been 18 weeks.
a lot of manifested
Right? We're not going to remember
storylines,
everything.
if we're being honest.
Yeah, a lot of things like Cameron Braun being an asshole and saying some quarterback's going to get injured, and then just about every quarterback got injured. That's the first thing that pops in my mind.
Karma.
He did. Drew, you think
Hello.
of the 2023 NFL season, what do you think of?
Destiny. Prophecy.
Shut the frick up, my guy.
All the other words that kind of fall, that are synonyms of those. I talked a lot about how the NFC East, it's written in the stars that there's no repeat winners. So everyone was picking the Eagles to win for 90% of the season. It looked like that's what it was going to be. And what do you know? They collapse. Cowboys win the East and ride off into the sunset.
Carolina had more wins than the Eagles in December.
That's crazy. That is actually insane.
So, yeah, I mean, you really don't hate to see it because it's the Eagles. You will hate to see it next year when the Cowboys don't win. But we won it this year, so that's all that matters. So, I spent a lot of podcasts calling the Eagles frauds, and here we are. So, feeling validated.
Yeah, what'd you say? They were the only team that had 10 wins at some point of the season that didn't finish with 12?
Yes. Yep. They were the only team to go 10-1 and not finish with 12 wins.
Yeah,
That's rough.
They finished with 11? 11
Yeah.
something?
Yep. 11-6.
It's the Eagles.
Yeah, they went 1-5 after that. Crazy.
So this was something that I was going to probably discuss a little bit more towards the playoffs. So I think it's fitting right now. Just downfalls in general. Like the way that some teams have collapsed at the end of the season has been very noteworthy. The Jacksonville Jaguars are the first team that come to mind for me when it comes to collapses. They had like a 99% chance of making the playoffs a few weeks ago. Like I think heading into December, around the same time that the Eagles started to collapse. And then just stinker after stinker after stinker. And all they had to do, they just had to win. And Trevor Lawrence, who, again, Drew, have to give you your credit.
There is video proof that it's not all Trevor Lawrence's fault. The Wits said he's still a fraud. He's not top 10.
But, again, that to Drew's credit, a lot of people were calling him top 10. And Drew, the entire offseason's like, let's pump the brakes on this one. And you're 2-0 to start the pod. You're 2-0 to start this podcast.
I'm feeling good.
Now.
I'm feeling good. Who else? I gotta figure out who else they called the fraud so I can make sure. But yeah, definitely the Eagles
0.5.
and definitely the Lawrence hate. I was big on those two all season long and even in the off season. So feeling good. It's kind of a bad look preying on someone else's downfall. I'm not preying on T-Law's downfall. But like you said,
I mean,
let's pump the brakes on it a little bit. I mean, even last year, so like this time, at the same time this year when they had a 90-some% chance to make the playoffs, Last year they had like a 6% chance at the same time frame. So things were looking good for them, and they just collapsed. I think they finished 9-8 last year. I think they finished 9-8 this year,
something like that.
And it was the same thing last year. They were in a final Week 18 game against the Titans, against the Josh Dobbs Titans to get into the playoffs, and they squeaked in, and then had an epic Chargers collapse. Everyone knows that story. And then this year they just get manhandled by the Titans, and Vrabel's last game, unfortunately, for the Titans. Crazy, but and they get knocked out, and it I don't know. Did they improve at all from last year? Doesn't seem like it, even though they added Ridley, who everyone thought was going to be sweet with Lawrence, and they just can't.
They had their moments, but it just
there was just no consistency. And is that on Lawrence? Is that on the receivers? Is that on whoever else? I don't know. Not my job to figure it out. So, but they missed, and it made me look good. So,
definitely did. Cam, when you think of 2023, that's not Vikings. What do you think of?
It really was the year of destiny. I mean, we see a Rams team that is going to go play in Detroit, which everybody counted out. And I think everybody did forget that Cooper Kupp and Stafford existed.
You all laughed at me. Who's laughing now?
I feel like we'll get to that, but yeah, the Rams were a big destiny team. This team that just kind of came out of nowhere once they realized, hey, I guess the Lions are going to be the 2 seed. No, are they? No, 3 seed. Lions are 3 seed.
3.
And why don't we just set up this matchup that would never happen in a million years, and we'll make sure that it happens in Detroit. First time in what? 20 years? 30 years? 30. First time in 30 years, and so it's just, it's the year of destiny. Baker Mayfield is going to probably beat the Eagles in the playoffs, and I did say that anybody is going to beat the Eagles. They did some comparison to Baker Mayfield beating the Steelers, who were really good at the start, and then absolutely. I think you did. But gosh, what a terrible team that was, that Steelers team. But we'll move on. Joe Flacco coming out of nowhere, maybe playing the Ravens in the divisional round. That's actually wild to think about in 2023. This season it's been very, very exciting for anybody and everybody except for Vikings fans. This team could have went if we could have stayed, even remotely healthy. You guys still stunk on your offensive line. I still think you guys missed the playoffs. Also, let it be known, Gill and I did both finish 7-10, and our bet did not matter at all this year.
No,
so that was awesome. So that's fun. But yeah, this season,
like you were the only one that's. It was great for 31 teams, but for just the Vikings, we're going to forget about. Never mind. Keep going. Panthers.
I hate this season in general.
Yeah, what did you think of the 2023 season?
Quarterback injuries is the first thing that comes to mind for me. Obviously, big one, week 1. Thank you, Cam, for speaking that into existence, by the way. But not just Aaron Rodgers' injury. Aaron Rodgers, Anthony Richardson,
Dude,
Sean
that one
Watson,
guy on
Daniel
Twitter
Jones.
spoke it into existence. Remember that?
He did.
Like a couple hours before the game, he was Aaron Rodgers going to tear his Achilles or something.
What happened was they were saying it reminded them, or the whole season, everything reminded a lot of Jets fans of going into the 1999 NFL season. Where in 98, the Jets had made it to the AFC Championship game, so there was a lot of hype. Vinny Testaverde coming back, and I think that it was somewhere along that timeline. Anyways, Vinny Testaverde got hurt. First week, Achilles injury, and a lot of people weren't bringing that up. Like, Vinny Testaverde, veteran quarterback, high expectations for the Jets, so it would have had to been 99. And then Achilles, snaps. First game. So I think they said, like, I'm nervous because of the last time this happened, and then jackasses brought it up or said it. But Aaron Rodgers, Anthony Richardson, Deshaun Watson, Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray came back from an injury, but Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy G, Kenny Pickett, Bryce Young, Matthew Stafford, Geno Smith, Justin Herbert, and C.J. Stroud. All hurt at different points throughout the season. Many of those, or definitely a few of those, season ending. So I think in the AFC conference specifically, the quarterback injuries just kept piling up. Like the Joe Burrow one, I think changed a lot of things because I believe, in my heart of hearts, the Bengals still make the playoffs. The Joe Burrow is there. You could say that for a lot of these teams, and that's just the game. That's the NFL. You play through injuries. You're supposed to play, or you have to play through injuries. You can't use it as an excuse, but it is part of the reason why playoffs shaped the way it did. Because we have an array and a huge number of injuries. And also, on the whole quarterback injury thing, I think Justin Herbert's injury showed everybody that the Chargers were probably an 0-17 team without it. Because he goes down, they fire the coach, he's dog shit, or the team is, not Justin Herbert. So, the injuries, I think, shed a light on a lot of teams as well. Like, the Jets, for instance, I've gone into a lot of detail on how bad the Jets are. I think the Aaron Rodgers injury shed light on a lot of the faults. I think Justin Herbert's injury shed a lot of light on the faults of the Chargers. So really, when I think of 2023, I think of the quarterback injuries. That's the
I think
big
it was
thing
a
that comes to
record,
mind.
or maybe it tied a record for the most quarterbacks to start in a season.
I
Most
think it
different
was
quarterbacks.
because we were seeing a lot of like third stringers. The Browns started 4, the Jets started 4, the Vikings started 4. A lot of teams started multiple quarterbacks this year.
Yeah.
And the Achilles. We were saying this in the middle of the year. What's going on with Achilles injuries? So
Seems like that's the way every year. It's some
there's some sort of
random
trend every
injury
year.
for whatever reason. It's like
Last year was
maybe
concussion.
one year it's ACLs, and then sure, concussions, and then Achilles. Just I don't know. It's weird, but it seems like it works that way.
It's like everybody changes up their training regimen the way they practice to avoid certain injuries, but it leaves them vulnerable to injuries. That's a theory right there.
That could be the case.
Another thing that I'm thinking of, because we were talking a little bit about downfalls, the Jaguars' downfall, the Eagles. The Eagles one is very interesting because there's people, I mean, they were just in the Super Bowl, and now I'm hearing and starting to see mumblings of, does Nick Sirianni get fired? It is crazy what one NFL season does. The losing of Shane Steichen was huge for the Eagles, and we're seeing that. And Jonathan Gannon. I mean, I think in the month of December, the Eagles had the 31st ranked defense in just about every statistical category. Pass defense, run defense, scoring defense.
It's ironic because after the Super Bowl, Eagles fans were crying and picketing for Gannon to be fired. They were like, "Oh, he lost us the game and this and that, the third." And okay, he's gone. He's on the Cardinals. And then now look at your defense. It's miserable. And it's not even really injury related. They pretty much have their guys. I mean, I think Slay missed maybe a game. Maybe Bradbury missed a game.
It wasn't anything significant. I mean,
no, they had their major pieces. I mean,
they lost.
I think they had Carter almost every game, if not every game.
They lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the Lions. C.J. Gardner-Johnson just free agency loss. I think that hurt.
They also traded for Byard, though.
Yep. So they tried doing that.
But like I said, like none of these guys were injured for long periods of time. So it just showed that the coordinators that they had last year in the Super Bowl run were very, very integral to the success of the team.
Yeah.
And I can't be
The court-
happier that Ciro Fraude is getting exposed.
He is definitely getting exposed. His coordinator choices, like the Brian Johnson hire, like that was a guy that I wanted the Jets to look into. Not gonna lie, and now I'm not gonna say I'm happy they didn't, but like the play calling. I was listening to Rex Ryan talk about the Eagles last week, and he was saying it's so predictable. It is the same thing. It is screen. It's every formation is twins to both sides essentially. Like you have 2 and 2. There's no 3 to 1. It's not a lot of variance. And when Nick Bosa is telling the entire league how to stop the Eagles' offense, and the Eagles don't adjust,
won one game after that.
I know.
He was not lying. He said we showed the blueprint. He was not lying.
He was not. And then I thought it was even funnier when Christian McCaffrey was on the Manning cast. And McCaffrey, the Eagles get down to the red zone, and McCaffrey's like, it's going to be a Hurts run here, and he called the entire sequence of events for the Eagles. Like, it is that predictable. So something's going to happen if they lose to the Buccaneers, which we'll talk about playoffs. We'll talk about the playoffs a little bit later on. But if they lose, there's usually a surprise head coach firing. I feel like from the playoffs or some sort of coach movement from the teams that make the playoffs. I think Sirianni's seat is getting pretty hot. I think that one's an interesting.
If they lose to the
watch.
Bucks, I would not be surprised if Sirianni was gone. I don't think you can. If you think there's some sort of incompetence, especially with some of the coaches that are available in this cycle already.
Yep. If you have a chance to get a Vrabel,
I don't think you can
Harbaugh.
sit around and wait.
Flores isn't moving unless it's a premier job.
The Eagle. I'll be honest with you.
We'll see.
The Eagles could be a premier job in some ways, with the way that they've been.
Flores signed a 1-year deal for a reason.
I mean, this is the way the Eagles run their operation is different than most teams, but they've had success. As much as it probably would pain you to say, Drew, I'll just say it. I mean, they've been to 2 Super Bowls in 5-6 years with 2 different head coaches, 2 different quarterbacks. So they're one of the better teams at admitting to mistakes and getting rid of them, or making changes when they feel they need to, sooner rather than later. Because a lot of times when it comes to coaches, quarterbacks, it's like, we agree to this, or especially when you won a Super Bowl, you've been to a Super Bowl, we just went to a Super Bowl, how can I let go of this guy? The Eagles are like, you know what? It's starting to smell like shit. Let's clean it up. Let's throw it away, and let's start fresh. We probably spent enough time talking about the Eagles for now. I do want to talk about the team that's going to hurt me a little bit, to say, because we talked a lot about downfalls. The Buffalo Bills. What a story they've been. The Miami Dolphins, they're like Jaguars pretty much had a 99% chance of making the playoffs. The Dolphins pretty much did too at one point. And then the Buffalo Bills, they fired their offensive coordinator. Sean McDermott says some questionable things, or it's reported that he says some questionable things. But since those comments, since everything like that has come out, they've been on a hot streak.
He's undefeated, I think, since McDermott became a jihad.
Yeah, let's be careful with what we say, but
supposedly,
allegedly, yes. Now, I gave Drew a lot of credit for things he has said in the past. Cam, it's time for me to give you some credit. Because especially Dylan and I were on the Buffalo Bills are going to suck this year. They're going to finish 3rd in the AFC East. I was preaching that all offseason. The Bills were going to finish 3rd in the AFC East. And Cam, I mean, even they were like 5-6, 6-6, or something like that. And we're like, they're dead. They're done. They suck. Sean McDermott's gone. They're probably going to get rid of Josh Allen. And Cam's still like, they're good. This is still a good team. And you know what? I'm eating my words. Dylan's eating his words. I don't remember how much Drew hopped on that train with us, but I definitely do remember Dylan and I being big front, or we were definitely carrying the Bills are going to suck banners above our heads. And Well, now we've been proven wrong. This has not been a good year for takes from me personally. But Cam, I do want to give you your flowers on staying confident with the Bills.
Yeah, I always said they have a very, very good roster. All they have to do is put it together. When you have
Kim,
Josh Allen at quarterback, what?
you got your camera off right now?
I was wondering the same thing.
It's not working at the moment. I
Ah,
can see myself. Like I can
okay,
see myself. I don't know why it's not showing up for you guys. I was
That's okay.
confused because
that's fine. Keep
I
going.
just wanted to make sure our viewers can see your beautiful face
If they
if you were hiding it, but it's
they may
okay.
not be able to. That's a shame.
but
Keep going, Cam. Bills.
with Josh Allen being as good as he can be, uh, I'm not sure on what his stats were, but the team did win games, and now they are the second seed in the AFC after being down and out of the playoffs, and no one's even talking about you. And they did that without using the top five receiver in the NFL, Stephon Diggs, which is the wildest thing you could ever think of. He was like wide receiver 58 weeks 6 through, or not 6, weeks 10 through 18 or something like that. But the Bills team was always good. Uh, they just needed to put it together.
I think for them too, the emergence of James Cook, like all off season, even a little bit into the season, it was they don't have a run game. I mean, that's been the Bills' story for seemingly ever, is they don't have a run game. And then James Cook emerges this year, has a phenomenal year. He's one of the top rushers in the league, makes it to a Pro Bowl. I think the emergence of that and an actual run game now in
Real
Buffalo
down year for
has
running
made them think.
backs. Side note. Just thought I'd
It
throw that
does,
out
yeah.
there.
It,
Really
So
is.
well
Christian
as
McCaffrey.
Well,
as
he's
Dylan likes to
an
say, they're
alien.
fungible. So CMC is phenomenal, yes. But the emergence of James Cook and what he's been able to provide to that offense, so that the run game for Buffalo for a while has just been Josh Allen, what he can do, and it takes a little bit off of his shoulders. So that's been interesting to see. And now they're going to be a really dangerous team here in the playoffs, which again we'll get to here in a second. But
Yeah, so kind of keeping up with that topic, team that exceeded or at least met expectations was the Lions. A lot of people kind of expected them to win the North this year. After the good ending that they had to last season, still missed out on the playoffs. But they went and they succeeded, and they lived up to most of the hype. They win the North for the first time in a very long time. For the first time ever, actually. The last time they won a division, it was the NFC Central. So, first time ever NFC North champion, which is kind of crazy. They hung a banner. I don't know
they were
about all
able to,
that, but
they were able to hang the banner like
Yeah, a little premature. Act like, you
premature.
haven't been there before. So, I get it. You're
they
excited,
literally haven't
but
been there. They won the division, though. It wasn't premature.
It was no, they
Um,
hung it after they won the game.
but yeah, they like I said, they lived up to the hype. They met the hype, met the expectations, made the playoffs. Third seed in the NFC. You know, they were competing for the 2 seed and the 1 seed for a long time. So great season.
but
Great
it's
season by
over.
Goff. He was second in yards, passing yards this year. Good emergence of Jameer Gibbs towards the middle to end of the season. At the beginning of the season, it was the Montgomery show, and he was great. And then it was turned into a 2-headed monster that looks pretty good. If they, I don't remember what kind of deal they signed Montgomery to, but I imagine he'll be there a couple more
Maybe like
years.
3 years, 4 years.
So
Probably
good
only
good
3.
job, Lions. They overcame a lot of defensive injuries at the beginning of the season. Their defense was dropping like flies, and that was the weakest part of their team. Probably still is, but still finished with they finished with 12 wins. So
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
great
Not
season.
trying. Yeah, too
So
bad
this
it's
is kind
over.
of
It's
Sorry.
not over.
it's not.
I think it is. I think it really, really is. I don't think Stafford's going to lose in Detroit. Are you serious?
We'll see.
Golf revenge game.
So kind of like merging, 2023 topic and playoff topic. Another team that's really has exceeded expectations, I think, Green Bay Packers, staying in the NFC North.
No, fuck off.
Talking about emergences. I'm serious here. The emergence of Jordan Love since Thanksgiving, it's got to be disappointing watching Packers constantly have Hall of Fame type quarterbacks. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Are
yet,
you
but
serious? No, quit it right now. He played subpar defenses because ours was Swiss cheese at the end. He's not that good. Aaron Jones carried that team. Stop giving the Packers props. They're gonna get freaking. I hope for the first time in my life that Dallas just absolutely hammers them in the playoffs. I want 45-3. That's it. I don't want to see Packers don't belong there. If we had Kirk Cousins,
stop! You've got to stop.
Packers don't belong there. They're not that good. It's a weak NFC. No, stop. Jordan Love deserves no flowers. None.
He does.
Not a single one.
He deserves a lot of flowers, I think.
Second in the league in passing touchdowns, and Aaron Jones was hurt for most of the year. I know because he was on my fantasy team. He was not good for most of the year either. Aaron Jones wasn't when he was playing. The emergence of Jordan Love and the weapons too, the young weapons that they have, it's going to be it's a promising future for Green Bay, and they're going to lose to the Packers. I mean, to the Cowboys.
Take it easy. Let's not jinx.
They're going to lose. They're more than likely going to lose.
Knock on wood.
But making it to the playoffs,
why are you scared of the
that
Packers?
Kind of seemed like
I have PTSD from the Packers.
With Aaron Rodgers, you'll be all right.
That is true, but still, we'll see.
He'll be all right.
Maybe Jordan Love is the third coming.
He's not. Stop.
Cam, he played well. He played well.
It's like
you don't finish second in passing touchdowns on accident.
No.
And you also don't do that in your first year starting either.
Not by accident.
Mahomes did. Not a good comparison.
Okay, that's Mahomes.
And he was
potentially
the MVP.
one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen.
And he was the MVP that year.
I'm not giving him his flowers.
That's fine.
Okay.
You don't have to. We will. Because he's earned them. What he's done this year, it's been impressive. Especially when there was a point of the season where I'm sitting here like, oh, Jordan Love kind of sucks. Again, Caleb Gill's eating his worst. It's just been one of those kind of years. But
to Cam, your point, Love did a weird thing throughout the season where some games he did look pretty bad, but some games he looked perfect. And it depends on what version of that he wants to be going forward on a consistent basis. But the potential is there.
I think the bad games was more so early on. Like we started after Thanksgiving, we started seeing more consistency from Jordan Love. It wasn't as much of a up and down roller coaster type. And I don't care what type of defenses you're playing, it's still the NFL, still your first year starting. You still have 1 to 2 year wide receivers. Like you don't have veterans. So it's still impressive regardless of whatever excuse you want to make against him. Team I'm disappointed by, speaking of like weapons and whatnot, the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if both these teams are kind of fraudulent. Let's just make this now. We're talking playoff teams essentially. So the first matchup, one of the first matchups is going to be the Chiefs and the Dolphins. Both teams are fraudulent. Dolphins.
Are we jumping into the playoff segment now?
Pretty much.
Should we just do our awards real quick?
Or do
you want to do it at the end? Okay.
Let's do awards here in a second. I do just want to say that the Chiefs have been very disappointing. That's a good point. Thank you, Drew.
You want to make a consensus award?
Let Gill finish.
When you're the Super Bowl champs, you have a lot of expectation heading into the year, and they lost the first game, but Travis Kelce, Chris Jones didn't play, so you kind of thought, things were going to pick up. And then you thought maybe they were going to make a move at wide receiver, and just things, they've been able to, crawl to the finish line, But how far into the playoffs they go, I have no idea. They might win the first week. Again, talk about that here in a moment. But I don't know if they make it to the AFC Championship game, which is very disappointing. When you go from the highs to the highs, and then you fall like that, it's tough.
I mean, it's a pretty short fall for them.
It's
I
for
mean,
them, yes. It's still
so
you
still a
expecting
good
more.
team. They did it to themselves though. I mean, they willingly went into the season with no plan at receiver.
No.
And an aging Travis Kelce who's still really good, but I mean, at some point, like, age catches up to you.
It's starting to catch up to him too, which is sad
So
to see.
they kind of shot themselves in the foot going into the season, and this will be the first AFC Championship in like 4 years. That's not an Arrowhead, as long as
because
things play out how we imagine they will.
Mahomes has never played a playoff game on the road. And I think he's made it to the AFC title every year he's been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was like 4 or 5 straight years or something like that.
Something crazy like that.
Something crazy.
Let's talk awards. MVP. This one is the one that, of course, it's the most valuable player in the league. We've had a lot of takes. I myself have had a lot of takes throughout the year. One, I said Dakota Prescott. There was a couple weeks there where I was on that Dakota Prescott for MVP train. It's definitely flipped for me, but I'm going to let you two go first. Drew, who's your MVP?
All right, it's still Dak. It's still Dak.
Homer.
Unfortunately, I think he's not going to win it in real life. In the actual award, unfortunately, led the league in passing touchdowns. Great year. Great best, I think, stats overall. If you're going to look compared to the other quarterbacks, let's just pretend that it's a quarterback award because it is. It's going to go to Lamar, and what carried Lamar is a great performance against the 49ers. He played really well.
Really
Got to give him that.
Yep.
But also, Dak played fantastic the whole season. I mean, except for the 49ers. So and the Bills. Yeah, no.
Yeah, after that Bills game,
those two games just ruined everything. I mean, Dak didn't play well. Yeah, I'll say that. No one played well at all at any position for the Cowboys. But to win 12 games and have this stigma around you after last year of being this turnover prone quarterback, he's throwing all these interceptions, he's fumbling the ball, he has however many turnovers. He comes out and by the way, it feels better to say this is a real quote, but it was taken out of context, and he didn't actually say it. But the quote of "I won't throw 10 interceptions this year," and then he doesn't throw 10 interceptions that year. That's standing on business. That is backing up your words. Like I said, a little bit out of context, but it's way cooler if you just look at it the way that it is. So
if you just look at the Barstool graphic.
Yeah. So great, fantastic season from him. A lot of people are starting to realize that he is a pretty good quarterback. I mean, it's been year after year after year after year that he's been in the league that everyone's like, oh, he's terrible, he's average, he's mid, he's this, that, whatever. And this year, it was back to Romo. No one liked Romo, even Cowboys fans, until he was gone. And then it was like, oh, Romo was so good, Dak's terrible, all that. Okay, whatever. Anyway, same kind of story. But this year, Dak was playing well, especially after the 49ers game, which was interesting. That was when the whole offense pretty much flipped a switch. And everyone kind of saw, hey, this guy's actually pretty good. And so it's time to, and out of a season where there wasn't like an absolutely amazing quarterback performance. No one threw for 5,000 yards. No one threw for 40, 50 touchdowns, something crazy like Peyton Manning was doing back in the day, and Mahomes and, stuff like that, Tom Brady. So in a year with no outstanding quarterback performances, even if you go and look, yeah, Lamar had some good games. His season total stats, touchdowns, yards, all that stuff is pretty average,
Average.
especially if we're talking about MVP candidate. I mean, if you were to stack that up against past MVP winners, it would I guarantee it looks terrible. So for a like I said, a lackluster quarterback season at large, I think this is the perfect year to give it to Dak, who did play really well for almost every game throughout the whole season. He deserves it. He deserves it. So, MV Prescott.
Cam, who's your MVP?
I'm gonna go with McCaffrey here. I really think he is the do-it-all guy and is probably the most valuable player to the 49ers. I say this as in taking the team to another level. Of course, the running back position is a fungible position, but this guy is an alien. He takes the offense to a new height that is not able to reach with any regular running back. So I'm gonna go with McCaffrey.
So I'm going to second that. Lamar, like Drew said, Lamar's going to win it. I get it. He is the most valuable quarterback, or he's the most valuable player on the best team in the NFL. I get it. But what Christian McCaffrey adds to the 49ers cannot be understated at all. You take him off the 49ers, they're not the same team. We saw that this year. Brock Purdy, who has higher MVP odds than Christian McCaffrey, struggled more when guys like McCaffrey were not playing or when they were hurt. And it's not necessarily best player award. It is MVP, most valuable player, which I think needs to be distinguished. Like, there's a difference between the Heisman Trophy and the MVP. Heisman Trophy is the best player in the country. MVP isn't always necessarily the best player in the NFL. It's who is the most valuable player. You take them off their team, and they are done. They're not good. You take McCaffrey off the 49ers, they're not the 1 seed. They're not probably the 2. They are not the same. And Cam, you said he takes them to another level. Christian McCaffrey does. So Christian McCaffrey is my MVP as well. It's going to probably be Lamar. The only other one I would say is had Tyreek Hill hit that 2,000-yard mark, he would probably be the MVP. He didn't hit it, though. So if you're not giving it to a quarterback, which every year, I always try getting a non-quarterback. Like I always say whenever it comes to MVP talk, I always try finding a non-quarterback because it just gets boring going with a quarterback every year. And I think it's more fun when you don't have a quarterback. Christian McCaffrey is definitely the best non-quarterback and the most valuable non-quarterback to their team in the NFL. So CMC all day long.
I also think it's nice that we choose people that probably aren't going to win it in the actual award.
Yeah.
Because like with Lamar, it's pretty predictable that the quarterback on the best team is going to win MVP. That's just the way it is. And so if we're going to move on to the next, are we doing Offensive Player of the Year?
Yep. Offensive Player of the
Year. And you guys can pick a quarterback if you want. I'm not going to. I think I mentioned in the chat before, like they should honestly just make the MVP quarterbacks and then leave the Offensive Player of the Year to non-quarterbacks. In that case, who would I pick?
I know exactly where you're going with this, and I'm going to allow it.
And I want to so bad.
I'm going to allow it because you have an actual case.
See, I just looked at the numbers, and I'm going to give it to Tyreek. Even though I don't want to, and it's very close. CeeDee Lamb had a fantastic season. But Tyreek, on one less game, had more touchdowns. Well, one more touchdown and 50 more yards than CD did. So and Tyreek definitely carried the Dolphins, kind of in the same situation that McCaffrey carried the Niners. Um, he's just we've had this conversation before on at least in my opinion, Tyreek is one of the best receivers of all time. He brings a different element to the position into the game that we really haven't seen by anyone else, at least not that I can think of. Just pure speed. And there's a lot of people that have been fast too, but he is really he's good receiver. He's good at going and getting the ball. But just the quickness and agility is on a different level that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And so
he's more than just straight line speed. Like John Ross, he was drafted
yeah.
because he had a fast 40, but he wasn't a good wide receiver. Tyreek Hill, like
Yeah.
you're saying, he's chippy. He's able to, his agility. I mean, he is a good blend of everything there.
Yeah.
He
And we
uses
saw
it all.
Tua struggle when Tyreek missed time. That Jalen Waddle looked pretty good. I won't go into that too much. But there was a time where it looked like Tyreek was going to break the record.
Had he not gotten
he
injured, he probably does.
Fell short, yeah, because that's basically like he missed time in a game, right? And then he sat out a whole another game.
The Titans game, he was hurt like pretty much the entire Titans game.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure he got knocked out of a game and then missed a game.
Yeah,
and then came back.
Sounds right.
So it was pretty much 2 games that he missed.
Yeah, he did not. I know he didn't play Jets the first time because it was Jalen Waddle. It was the Jalen Waddle show. Tyreek Hill didn't play at all. So he definitely missed at least one full game. He missed most of the Titans and then probably another game or two.
Yeah. So maybe we'll see. Maybe next year. He is getting older. I don't know how old he is now, but fantastic season by him. Like I said, led the league in receiving touchdowns and receiving yards. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to Tyreek.
So before I send it to Cam, one more quick thing on Tyreek Hill that I'm reading. Only wide receiver in NFL history with back-to-back 1,700 yards receiving.
Wow.
That's great.
That's pretty good.
I'd say so. Cam, who is your offensive player of the year?
This one I don't really know, to be honest.
See, I'm kind of struggling with this one because I took Christian McCaffrey as my MVP, and a lot of times the offensive player of the year typically is the best non-quarterback at the offensive side of the ball. So it's like, do I want to take Christian McCaffrey again, or do I want to take somebody else?
I am going to take...
I wouldn't fault you if you went CMC again. Ooh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Explain.
Because without Cooper Kupp, he stepped into the Cooper Kupp role that the Rams needed, and without him, they're not in the playoffs. So offensive player of the year for the rookie.
So is that your offensive player of the year or offensive rookie of the year?
Both.
Both?
2 birds, one stone.
So you would take you would have Puka Nacua over CJ Stroud for offensive rookie of the year.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. I don't hate it. Because even when Cooper Kupp came back, it was still Puka Nacua. He just broke a 60-some-odd-year-old record for receiving yards from a rookie.
How did a rookie from 1960 hold the record that long?
I was wondering the same thing. Because they weren't passing the ball. The first 4,000-yard passer was Joe Namath in the mid to late 60s. So how was a wide receiver? That's wild.
Yeah.
That's insane. I could take the cop-out answer and just say CMC again, but I'm probably, just to make things a little different, I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill because of what he does for the Dolphins. The same argument to CMC. Without him, the 49ers aren't the same. Drew, you said it. Without Tyreek, the Dolphins aren't really the same. They need him. He's MVP worthy. He definitely is because he is one of the most valuable players in the league. You take him away from the Dolphins, it pretty much revitalized to his career. Him and Mike McDaniel, both themselves, have done a tremendous job on Tua's career. And I'm not going to spend too much time on Tyreek because we already have, but to make things a little bit different, not take the cop out, I would take Tyreek Hill as my offensive player of the year if CMC is my MVP. Let's go defensive player of the year. Drew, you got a couple candidates there on your Cowboys. You going with a Cowboy or you going with somebody else for DPOY?
I am going with the Cowboy, but I'm going with the Cowboy that I think probably has the lesser chance of winning it. And that is Deron Bland. It's not every year that you see an NFL record broken. Obviously, Puka Nacua broke an NFL record. So, I'd like to see him win awards. Right? I don't know that he will. I think just one.
I don't know if he broke their
I thought it was yards and receptions. He needed, because they kept saying he needed 2 more receptions and 1 more yard.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. Yep, 4 receptions and receiving yards.
Anyways, Deron Bland setting the record with 5 pick sixes in a season, ends the season with 9 interceptions, over half of those going back for touchdowns. That is about the most valuable you can be to a defense. I mean, sacks are great, but literally putting points on the board 5 times is huge. Like I said, NFL record, really close to getting up to Trayvon's. Trayvon didn't have the record, but it was something that hadn't been done in 50, 60 years, something like that. So yeah, just a great season. He unlike Trayvon, he had a really good grade throughout the season. So he was aggressive, but not too aggressive. He just, especially being a I think 5th round pick. I think this is his 2nd year. Getting thrust into the spotlight after Trayvon goes down and being able to answer the call when needed. Like I said, he's most valuable player on the defense this year, in my opinion. Just love to see it. Love to see it from a young guy, super humble guy too. I mean, after he broke the record, he was in the locker room and just, thanking everyone. He's not out there, tweeting at people or getting in anyone's face. He's playing his game. He's doing his thing. And you love to see it. So Deron Bland.
See, that's who I said when he broke the picks or that pick 6 record. I said that he should be the defensive player of the year. So I'm glad you went with him for yours.
Yeah, and then he immediately got cooked by the Seahawks after that. But he did get an interception in that game after halftime. Kind of flipped the game. But anyways,
Cam, who's your defensive player of the year?
Come back to me.
Mine's Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I'm gonna
He's a favorite right now. And I know he doesn't lead the league in sacks. He's got 14. I think the leader's got like 17 right now. But when your entire offensive game plan is limiting Mike or Myles Garrett and you still struggle, that's a force to be reckoned with. Like the Cowboys, yeah, you have to limit Micah Parsons, but you also have to worry about DeMarcus Lawrence. He doesn't draw as much attention as
you're allowed
Myles
to hold
Garrett
Parsons,
does.
though. That's it, so it makes it easier.
You are. It's crazy.
You are allowed to hold Myles Garrett too. So when I went to the Browns game, the Thursday night Browns game, Myles Garrett had gone like 4 straight weeks without getting a holding call called on him, which is wild. It was Mekhi Becton who held him, and they called defensive holding on 77. The entire stadium erupted because it's like he actually got a holding call. He's got the best pass rush win rate, which I think is typically pretty big. It's higher than Parsons, higher than Donald, higher than Boza, higher than Bryce Huff, who has been a pretty good year.
You're missing a name on there. Who else is it higher than?
Well, it's higher than TJ Watt. He's not even in the top 5.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't name him. See, TJ Watt, a lot of people say TJ Watt should get it because he's got more sacks. But best players usually, it's more than just stats. Like, would you say Deron Bland probably does this is, helps my argument, but also doesn't at the same time, but I'm going to use it. Deron Bland, is he the best corner in the league? No. I think Sauce or Surtain, but he's got more pick sixes. He's got more
That's
interceptions.
fair. I'll help you out, though. I believe he graded out at the second best grade of corners.
Fair.
So I think the pick sixes, it kind of
flips
help. Him.
But stats isn't everything. What Miles Garrett is just a beast. He is the best player on the best defense and one of the best defenses in the league. And for like TJ Watt, I mean, Miles Garrett isn't going up against tight ends every play.
Miles Garrett is getting actually double teamed.
He's getting double teamed. He's getting triple teamed.
I love that double team chart. It's so hilarious. It's just double team percentage, pass rush win rate, and it's just Miles Garrett in the very top right, and then right below that, I think, is Micah Parsons.
So according to ESPN,
and then everyone else, and then Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff is up there.
He is. He's been. I'll
give you your credit, but yeah,
Miles makes most of his.
Miles is a freak.
According to ESPN, through the first 16 weeks, Garrett was double-teamed on 30% of passing downs. Second only to Parsons. For reference, Watt is only double-teamed on 14% of the plays. And I know Dylan's going to say, well, we have Highsmith, but, Parsons also has Lawrence. So Garrett has other defensive guys with him as well. So, Zadarius Smith has been, he's there. They have pieces. They're still one of the best defenses in the league, the Browns are. Miles Garrett has been a dog. And the other thing, too, why I've heard some people complaining about, Miles Garrett getting it is, he's got to get it at some point, so they just got to give it to him this year. They don't have to give it to him this year. He's the best defensive player in the league. Period. That's why he's going to get it, and that's why he should get it. Cam, do you have anything else to add? Because I think that you said that you were going to go with that.
Yeah, I think you did a really good job.
So, let's do Coach of the Year, and then I think we'll go into playoffs. The other awards we really don't need to touch on. Oh, yeah, rookies. Good point. Let's do rookies first. Cam, you went with Puka Nacua as your offensive rookie of the year. Drew, who is yours be?
CJ Stroud. Plain and simple. Yeah. I mean, the Texans were good enough to get the first pick if Lovie Smith didn't decide to win the last week, which turned out to be a massive blessing in disguise if they truly were going to take Bryce Young at number one had they had the chance. And so maybe they got stuck with Stroud. Maybe that's who they wanted the whole time. I guess we'll never know. Either way, they go from how many games they win last year? Three. To 10-7, winning the AFC South and being in the playoffs. So huge turnaround. Especially even after Stroud was drafted, people were saying, it's going to be the Cardinals picking number one and the Texans, who the Cardinals have their pick, at number two. And it's farther from the reality. CJ played amazing. Fantastic rookie year. He missed, I think, 1 or maybe 2 games to a concussion.
It was at least 2.
Yeah. So that's kind of unfortunate, but I mean, you just look at how he was playing and a lot of stuff, especially as an Ohio State fan. The best memory of CJ Stroud will always be Georgia, the Georgia Stroud game. And it was like, who is this man? Why did we not have him the whole season? It was just a completely different guy, just completely different confidence and just focused, laser focused. And we saw him come into this season and we saw a lot of the same things that we saw in that game. And the main thing that we love to see is just the beautiful dots.
There you go.
We'll use dots instead.
Dots?
Beautiful throws. Yes. He's throwing dots.
For those that are unsure of why we're being so hesitant with
Go
how I
check,
use
go
that.
check our TikTok.
Go check out
I
the
thought you
TikTok.
liked his
Actually, go.
balls, to be honest.
I do, but
There you go. Well,
Like
that's the reference there.
his
Hey,
beautiful balls,
there he
yes,
from
is.
what you said.
He a lot of the times these awards go to quarterbacks. I know it's kind of dumb. It gets old, and obviously Puka's a great choice, but it is definitely not every day, as we have seen, that you can find a quarterback who plays even relatively well, let alone um, be able to completely turn around your team in his rookie year. So I think the Texans are going to be really good for a really long time, and that's because of Stroud and what he's been able to do. So,
Yeah,
Stroud, rookie of the year.
Stroud is mine as well. Every year we see at least, I'm pretty sure every year we see a team go from worst to first. The Texans were that, and that was because of the offensive rookie of the year, C.J. Stroud. Drew, you touched on a lot of it. He has just been phenomenal out the gate. He started, it was like 3 weeks of like 300 plus passing yards, no interceptions for a while. Like, at some point, I was expecting him to hit that rookie wall because it just happens. At some point, you start making mistakes. In the NFL, you try seeing like what you can get away with, what you can't get away with, and he's been getting away with just about everything. It's been damn near impressive to see. And the Georgia Stroud, it's like they let him out of the chest. Like they unlocked the chest, they let him out for that Georgia game, and he's been out ever since. He never got locked back in. He has been that guy since New Year's Eve of 2022. It's been so fun to watch. I absolutely love it. And yeah, I mean his throws, it is so fun. It is so nice to see. Just beautiful arches, just nice rainbow. Like a lot of times I see those throws and I don't think of him throwing it at Ohio State. I think of the Justin Fields one to Olave against Clemson. Like it's got that nice, beautiful rainbow type arch, and it's a thing of beauty. He's constantly, and he's been smart too, which has been very encouraging to see. Like his rookie year, he's playing both smart and efficient, and he's making the right plays. Like it's not just a lot of thinking and dunking. He's doing it when he has to, but he's also testing the defense when it's there. So he's playing almost like a veteran already. I'm going to go with this now. I'm going to take a little bit of a head for before, but because we're talking about CJ Stroud and the turnaround that they've made, my coach of the year is D'Amico Ryans because he's been a big part of that too. We don't have to do coach of the year now, but because we're talking about CJ Stroud, I'm doing this now because it's pretty much the same conversation. They completely turned that program around. 4-13 last year, second overall pick. And like you said, it looked like they were going to be the second overall pick heading into this year. Like a lot of people had them penciled in as one of the worst teams in the league, and they're hosting a playoff game. They're hosting a game against a team that they traded their last quarterback to. So it's what D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud have done in their first year together has been remarkable. It's been fun. And I think as long as they continue to build it the right way, there's many years of success with those two there. I don't know if you want to do coach of the year, if you want to do defensive rookie of the year. I just kind of like fumbled around
Let's
a
do
little bit.
defensive rookie of the year. We'll end with coach of the year. My defensive rookie of the year. It kind of got tricky here towards the end.
It did.
Because two things happened. Jalen Carter played dominant for most of the season, and along with the Eagles towards the end of the season, kind of fell off a little bit. Whereas Will Anderson on the Texans, kind of the opposite, a little slow to start the season. Towards the end, started to turn it on, started to become dominant. Who do I want to give it to? I will give it to Jalen Carter. As much as I don't want Eagles to win anything, he has been impressive as a rookie. You know, there's a little room for error. So and defensive tackle is a very difficult position. And for a lot of the season, you would see those same charts that we were talking about earlier with double team rate and pass rush win rate, stuff like that. He was up there near Aaron Donald territory. And anytime you can get near Aaron Donald, especially as a rookie, but anytime you get near Aaron Donald, even as a veteran, that's impressive territory to be in. So I'm going to give it to Jalen Carter. Like I said, I think he had a little bit of a rougher end to the season. Will Anderson is a fantastic pick as well, but Carter had a dominant most of the season, had a very difficult position. For that reason, he's my defensive rookie of the year.
Cam, who would yours be?
I'm gonna go with Will Anderson, strictly because he is one of the reasons that they did make the playoffs. They had to fight and claw without CJ. Jeez. Um, they struggled with Case Keenum, and the defense had to step up, and they gladly answered that call. Will Anderson is one of the biggest players in that defense at the moment, so I'm going to give it to him.
And I'm pretty sure, don't allow me to speak for you if this isn't correct, but had Christian Gonzalez stayed healthy, you were a big fan of his before he
That
got
was
healthy.
correct.
Cam.
He's going to be insanely good.
They get the right defensive mind there, probably. He's going to be, which is
Vrabel.
probably, unfortunately. Cam, I'm going to side with you. I think it's going to be Will Anderson as well. Like quarterback, edge rusher is usually the easy position to give these awards to. They're like the defensive quarterback when it comes to awards. And I know I try finding the outlier. I try, like the defensive tackle, Jalen Carter. Had he finished the year as strong as Will Anderson did, I probably would have given it to Carter, but he did. Anderson really did step up. The other guy I would like to mention, and he isn't here to really talk about his guy, but Joey Porter Jr., what he was able to do, he had a really good year defensively. When he finally came into the fold, he was starting to lock guys up. I mean, the first game I really think of for him was him putting the clamps on DeAndre Hopkins, which isn't easy to do even still at the Hops age. It's pretty difficult to do. So, Joey Porter Jr., I thought he had a really good rookie season, and had he played more early on, I think his odds for the award would be higher. He just didn't really start getting the playing time or the recognition until it was a little too late. So, Joey Porter Jr. should be in the conversation more, but I think it's going to be Will Anderson for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I already gave my Coach of the Year, Drew, and then Cam for your guys' Coach of the Year, and then we'll finish up with playoffs.
My real life bet that I placed is on D'Amico Ryans, and I think that's a fantastic selection.
When'd you place that bet?
When?
Yeah.
Probably it was early in the season, before
Ooh, well, that's going to be
probably before halfway through the season.
that's,
Same time I placed the Dak MVP bet at it was plus 2,000 at the time. Anyways, good bet still liking it. Another option is kind of a boring one, and that's Kyle Shanahan. One of the best offenses, if not the best offense. Just another year of fantastic football. If you're going to say that, if I'm going to say, because I am the one saying it often, that Purdy is a system quarterback, this and that, whatever. Well, the reason for that is because of the coach, Kyle Shanahan. But I will still refrain and give it to a different guy who overcame an extremely difficult season and got his team to the playoffs, and that is Kevin Stefanski.
Yep.
Just injury after injury, blow after blow. You lose Nick Chubb early in the season. You lose Deshaun Watson, whether that's good or bad. You're
you still have to play four different quarterbacks.
Yeah, when you lose major pieces, it is very difficult to keep winning. And Deshaun Watson, whether you think he's good or bad, whatever, he's still your starting quarterback. Losing your starting quarterback is not an easy thing to come back from, as we have seen this year. So I'm going to give it to Kevin Stefanski. He did a fantastic job maneuvering those difficult injuries, and finished with 11 wins. I think that's very impressive for what the Browns have gone through. Fantastic defense. Like I said, just it takes it's extremely hard, as we've seen, to win when you have especially a quarterback injury, but on top of that, a running back who is near he's not Christian McCaffrey, I don't think, but he's near that level. He can take over games. He can win you some games for sure, and you lose them so early. And to still overcome that, finish in a good spot in the playoffs. Very
The
impressive.
offensive line trouble that they had as well. They had a bunch of offensive line injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot to overcome.
Yeah, I think DeJuan Jones
DeJuan
got
Jones
injured.
was their third offensive tackle. They lost both their left and their right. DeJuan Jones came in. Jones got hurt.
He was playing well too
He
for
was
a
fourth
while.
or fifth rounder.
And who else? Did they lose one of their guards?
I want to say they did. I know they lost both their tackles.
Batonio, or is it
Joe Batonio?
Teller?
I think it was Wyatt Teller. I think it was Wyatt Teller.
I think one of those guys got injured maybe, but a lot of injuries going around on the Browns.
And they still made it to the playoffs with one of the best records in the league. And quickly, on that note, I do have to crown you as our whatchamacallit, amazing sports analyst / genius.
Is
because
it?
Do we count the playoffs? Or
I think so.
All right, I'm not going to crown you yet. Then I'm going to take that back and see
I'll give you your chance. You know,
right.
if the Rams win and the Browns lose, who had a more successful season?
That's true.
I mean, I got
true.
the number 2 pick, so you don't win a Super Bowl.
That's
wins?
a losing season.
What are you saying right now?
Yeah, but I got the number 2 pick, so
that means that you did.
I'd be in a better spot though.
But that wasn't the bet. The bet was
the bet?
whoever had the best record
for the season.
Anyways, who is your coach of the year, Cam?
It was Stefanski. To do what he has done with how much he has lost, you can't not applaud what he's doing. So that's why I will be going with him.
The other one that I think needs to be said is John Harbaugh, because he is the head coach of the best team in the NFL, so that does deserve some recognition. But I think the other guys that we mentioned, Stefanski's definitely more deserving because of what he's overcome. D'Amico Ryans is more deserving because of what he was able to do. Some other guys are a little bit more deserving, but Harbaugh's name does need to be mentioned, I think.
I think just before we move on, I just want to throw out Shane Steichen as well.
Yes, that's a good one.
If they win the game against the Texans, then maybe it's Steichen over D'Amico. It's just the way things fell. Still fantastic seasons for first-year coaches. We've kind of seen now that maybe he was pretty important to the Eagles. So
yeah, like we mentioned earlier, Steichen he was a huge part of that Eagles team, and he's going to help the Colts lead or get the Colts to some really good seasons, I think, here moving forward. And Cam, again, got to give you some flowers as you just kind of, I think that was an accident there. I don't think that was on purpose. But
what?
You did say that the Colts were going to make the playoffs. You were wrong. They didn't make the playoffs, but they did have a better season than most of us had expected. So I'll give you that. I will give you that.
You get half a flower.
Speaking of playoffs, let's get to the playoffs. Playoffs start this Saturday, and I'm glad.
Should we just do our picks real quick? Just run through the schedule. I don't know if we need to break down everything, but
I don't think
we can give our picks.
I was just going to say, here's the games for this weekend, and then kind of make the picks and go from there. So, I mean, yeah, let's make our picks right now, Drew. Especially you and I, since we need our picks. Drew and I are tied in the pick'ems, by the way. Drew and I tied the regular season in the pick'ems. I blew a 2-game lead. So there's that. So Drew and I are going to continue making picks into the postseason, and then if there's a winner decided this week, that'll decide it. If we have to go to the divisional round, that'll decide it. But Drew and I are still making, and Cam, make your picks as well, or tell us who you think is going to win these games. But one of the first playoff games, I think this one is Saturday. I don't know the actual playoff schedule, which games are Saturday, Sunday, whatnot.
I think Steelers. Did the Steelers play on Saturday? And
I hope so, because that game's going to be
maybe.
miserable. Let's just get it out of the way. It's the first game that's showing up on my bracket that I have right here. So Steelers-Bills, it's in Buffalo. Mason Rudolph is going to be starting. TJ Watt's going to be out. And the Bills are on a hot streak. So
I think this is very easily the Bills.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dylan. It was going to be tough for you before. It's going to be extremely tough without TJ. It's going to be a really easy game for Dawson Knox. He doesn't have to block anybody now. So that's good for him. Anyways, yeah, I think this one's the Bills. The Bills are the team that every single other AFC team was hoping didn't make the playoffs. They made it, and now we will see why. If the Steelers win this game, they will be matching up with the Ravens in the divisional round. And that gives a very, very unfortunately high chance that the Steelers make the AFC Championship game because for whatever reason,
stuff like that. Don't you dare
they
say
own the Ravens. So please, Bills, do what you got to do. Do what you're supposed to do. Take care of business for all of our sakes. Thank you, Josh Allen.
That's also that's a Paramount game. That's not the Peacock game. Nice.
No, the Peacock game is the Chiefs Dolphins.
Yeah, because all the Swifties have to pay for Peacock in order to watch.
They might make a bank off that. That might be a big brain move.
I think it was. I really think it was. Cam, who do you think's got Bills and Chiefs or Bills and Steelers? It's Bills. I think the Bills probably make it to the AFC title game. Probably. Depending on who they're matched up against. They're the 2 seed, so I mean the only other team that's going to be higher than them is the Ravens, and they'll be if we get to that point. So I do think it's going to be Bills. Speaking of
by the way, Saturday games are Browns Texans and then the Dolphins Chiefs.
Dolphins Chiefs is Saturday. So Let's do Dolphins Chiefs right now. Tyreek Hill goes back to Arrowhead. See, we got storylines all over the place. And this was one where...
Great script. Good job, NFL script writers.
They really did, because I was irritated when they scheduled this game in the regular season for a Germany game, because the Chiefs were the quote-unquote home team. It's like, why wouldn't you have Tyreek Hill go back home? The script writers knew exactly what they were doing.
Let it be known the Rams were not in the playoffs until after the writers ended their strike.
That's funny. That's a good point. It's a very valid point. But the script writers definitely knew what they were doing. They had us irritated that Tyreek Hill didn't get a chance to go back to Arrowhead. And then in the playoffs, it's going to be miserable. It is going to be one of the coldest playoff games in history. A lot of snow. Exactly what you love to see in the playoffs. I don't know who I think is going to win this game because I think both these teams are frauds. The Dolphins are definitely frauds. They don't beat teams with winning records. The only team with a winning record they've beaten is the Dallas Cowboys. No offense, but they don't beat teams with winning records. They've beaten one. But the Kansas City Chiefs, what scares you? I mean, their defense is good. They still have Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. The weather's going to play a factor, so I don't know. I think it's going to come down to the run game. I think I'm going to take Dolphins.
Wow.
I think I'm going to actually take the Dolphins now that I'm workshopping it in my head.
I'm going Chiefs.
I'll take the Dolphins then.
I think it's going to be hard for the Dolphins to go into Arrowhead, away game, playoff atmosphere in the freezing cold
That is true.
against a defense that is still good,
I've not officially
a
made my pick.
Patrick Mahomes that is still fantastic, even though it's possible that no one catches the ball for him. But I would find it hard to bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. I'm going to go Chiefs.
Whenever I make this pick, I'm not going to feel good about it. That's the thing. So
it could definitely go either way. I mean, I could see Tyreek Hill revenge game, although
I don't think
his only
he has,
revenge is they didn't pay him that much. But
yeah, he
I
wanted
don't think
out.
there's any sour. Yeah, I don't think there's any sour.
My big thing
feelings.
is who has a better run game, because in these type of weather games, it's that run game that I think plays a big role. Cam, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking Chiefs because they have been there a lot more. I mean, not their receivers, but it's an experienced team. Andy Reid's gonna know what to do. This is Mike McDaniel's second shot, first with Tua. Tua's first playoff game, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
I don't know if
good
it's Tua's
season.
first, but
Build on it. Good season. Build on it.
Not Tua's first, because Tua was hurt last year. Mike McDaniel went to Buffalo with Skylar Thompson as quarterback last year.
yeah. But did Tua play in the playoffs before that? Like actually play, not
Because
just be on the team?
last year was
Well, there you go, Cam.
Mike McDaniel's first year as head
Mhm.
coach.
So Mike McDaniel's second year, but Tua's, like Cam said, Tua's first year playing in the playoffs.
What I want to do. I want to go Chiefs.
You can
But
go Chiefs. I won't be mad if you switch your pick.
I didn't lock it in, so we'll go Chiefs.
It's not locked in until it's on the Google Sheet, so you have time to think about it.
For now, we'll go Chiefs for now. All right. What was the other Saturday game? Was it
Browns, Texans?
Texans? Cool. Because that's the next game I have. I think this is going to be a good game. A lot of storylines here. Again, Texans hosting the team they traded their former franchise quarterback to, and now their current hopeful franchise quarterback leading them.
Really good script.
Joe Flacco, hoping for a chance he's hoping for his revenge against the Ravens. But let's see what CJ Stroud and them have in store. What do you think, Drew?
I think it's the Browns. Joe Flacco has been playing very, very well. On top of that, the defense is just so good. CJ Stroud had a really good year, but still, he's a rookie in the playoffs. Hasn't been there before in the NFL. You know, he was there in college, but not quite the same. So I'm going to give it to the team who's been there before, especially a quarterback who's been there before. He's won the whole thing. So a good quarterback playing lights out at the right time, paired with one of the best defenses in the league, probably the best defense, one of the best defenses left in the whole thing. That it seemed that's a pretty tall task for a first year head coach and a rookie quarterback. I'm gonna go Browns.
I agree. Cam, what do you think?
I'm going Browns. CJ Stroud, good season. You did the unthinkable.
Yep.
But it's Flacco's year.
And I think to go off of what Cam...
Go ahead.
Keep going, sorry.
No, I'm
Browns
good.
are playing what? No,
Browns are playing very, very good.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but going off of what Cam keeps referring to, the script, I think the script writers have for the Browns and the Ravens to play at some point so that Joe Flacco can go back home to Baltimore and try getting his revenge. If that does happen, I don't think the Ravens lose to the Browns, but you never know. I'm pretty sure they did already this season. I'm pretty sure the Browns...
Probably.
Yeah, the Browns did. The Browns did beat the Ravens at
The
one
Ravens
point.
have weird losses. They have fantastic wins and then weird losses.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Browns are one of those weird losses. I think that was a game where Deshaun Watson looked okay for the most part. But Joe Flacco in the playoffs, this is where he tends to shine. He's got a mediocre, for the most part, regular season career. It's kind of like Eli Manning, but he finds that light switch. He knows how to turn it on in the postseason. Goes on some good runs, and he's going to turn it on here in the postseason. And rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, like you guys have said, this is a tall order for them. The environment is going to be hectic in Houston, but I don't think they'll be able to overcome the Browns. I mean, Stefanski's been there before. He's won a playoff game. Should have won an Arrowhead. So should have made it to the AFC title game with Baker. Flacco's won it all, like you said. Yeah, I gotta go Browns. All right, we gotta make some NFC picks now. So Packers, Cowboys. Drew, I know you're nervous, but are you nervous enough to actually think the Cowboys are gonna lose?
I'm not nervous about this specific Packers team, but just the Packers aura, their my general feeling towards the Packers as some of the most memorable Dallas Cowboys teams have been sent home by the Packers, specifically very, very funny, ironically, with Mike McCarthy at the helm, and Aaron Rodgers. Both of those are obviously
another
no longer on
really,
the
really good
Packers.
game for the script.
Both of those are no longer on the Packers. So a essentially rookie quarterback. I know he's not, but as a starter, he's basically a rookie. Not a rookie coach. He's been there before. Not too much success.
He's made it to an NFC champion, at least one NFC title game.
I always think back to, ow, you little bitch. I just got bit.
Oh,
Anyways,
Easy.
he made it. My for whatever reason, my most memorable loss of the Packers is to the Niners in the snow.
Yeah.
That's why you need a dome. Anyways,
No.
I think the Cowboys win. I think this is all steps towards breaking the curse. You're gonna have to get over the Packers. If you can't beat the 7 seed, like, what are we doing? What are you even doing? So Love has been playing well. He's been playing really well. Very young team all around. Cowboys have a lot of experienced head coach, experienced quarterback. Most of our best players are all veterans by now, at least by 1 year. So I'm going to give it to the Cowboys.
So before Cam takes over, I do have one question. There's kind of some rumors swirling around or some, thoughts. If Cowboys lose, what happens to Big Mike?
He comes back and coaches next year
Does he?
for the Cowboys. I think it's ridiculous. The whole conversation. I've said this before, and the Cowboys haven't had double-digit seasons, 3 consecutive double-digit win seasons since the 90s. McCarthy has brought that. Whether maybe it's not the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. I'm fine if you don't think McCarthy's the best coach in the league. I don't think McCarthy's the best coach in the league, but he has brought consistency. He's brought a professional atmosphere, a good culture to the team that kind of ebbed and flowed when Jason Garrett was here. He's definitely brought, like I said, more consistency. I think we had 12 wins this year. I think last year was maybe 11. I think the year before that was 12 as well. Maybe those are flipped. Either way, I don't see. Obviously, the Cowboys have high expectations. I am aware of that. Unfortunately, whether it's fair or not, they exist. I don't see how you can fire a coach that went 2-3, 2-1, as far as division championships go. Playoffs are the playoffs. It's. Hey. My couch is being torn to shreds.
I could
Playoffs
hear
are the
that.
playoffs. It's hard to win. winning in the regular season consistency against NFL caliber, schedule, very difficult as well. I don't see how you can fire McCarthy at this point.
Fair enough. Still wanted your thoughts on it because that is starting to swirl around a
Yes,
little bit.
I've seen it floating, and part of me gets it because, like, I don't know, like, kind of like with Garrett, like, at some point you kind of have to, you kind of want to make a decision sooner rather than later. But the signs were there with Garrett. I mean, we had some terrible seasons with Garrett, and he was here for 10 years, it seemed like. Maybe he was there 10 years, literally. It was a long time. McCarthy, this is his, I think, third season. He hasn't given a reason to be fired yet.
Cam,
Maybe
I
fourth.
think you pretty much already said how you feel about this Cowboys-Packers game, but who do you got winning?
Sadly, the Packers.
You got Packers winning?
Mm-hmm.
You said the
There's
exact
no way.
opposite earlier.
There's no way that you said that after saying that
Drew,
you
would
hope
you
they
like
lose
me to say go
45-3.
Cowboys?
You don't have to say go Cowboys. You just have to say who you think is going to win.
I think the Packers
See.
are going to win, to be
You
honest.
think the Packers? Okay. I think the Cowboys
I
do.
really hope they don't.
He's trying to do some like
That's interesting.
voodoo reverse.
That's fine. If it works, I'm fine with it, Cam.
That'd be interesting. If the Packers do actually win, that would be something. I don't think they do. I think this is the closest the Cowboys are going to get to where they want to go. This is the best chance they have.
This is the easiest road
This is
that
It's
we've
not
had
going.
in a very long time.
Yeah, I think someone was saying the best chance to make it to the Super Bowl since the '90s, something like that. So they're winning at least one playoff game. The question is, can they get through San Francisco? That's going to be the question for everybody
No.
in the NFC, and I don't know if they can, but hey, that's why you play the games, right?
I know nobody can.
Ravens
I mean,
good. Vikings
Eventually.
good. We can do that,
Vikings
right? We just got to hope Trent
that-
Williams and Debo get injured.
Not
hey,
anymore.
we don't hope for injuries around here.
That's true.
I think this is going to be my favorite playoff game. I think this might be the best playoff game we have over the wild card weekend. And not just because of the storyline of Stafford coming home, but I think the way these two teams match up, I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be pretty exhilarating. Lions, Rams, Stafford's coming home, but does he come home to get a win? First time in 30 years that the Lions have hosted a playoff. Ford Field has never hosted, outside of a Super Bowl, they've never hosted a playoff game. The Lions have never played a playoff game at Ford Field. And it's Matthew Stafford is the opponent, which is going to sting. It hurts a lot of Lions fans. What would hurt them even more, I think, is if Stafford finally gets a playoff win in Ford Field, but it's against the Lions. I don't think that happens. I think the Lions do win at least one playoff game. I got the Lions winning this. They're going to be able to match the Rams point for point, punch for punch. And at the end of the day, I think Amon-Ra is going to have a big play. The one thing that does worry me is the loss of Laporta. That is going to suck for the Lions, but I think they'll find ways to make up for it. You mentioned the Jahmyr Gibbs emergence earlier on this pod. That's going to play a big role. Stafford's going to have his moments. Puka Nacua is going to make some big plays, and Cooper Kupp, I think, is going to be a wild card in this. But I got Lions. The energy is just going to be too high, and this is the moment that they've been building for, and they're going to get at least one playoff win this year.
I think I could see either team winning this game.
That's the thing.
I think if you play this game 10 times, I think the Lions probably win it 6 or 7. But I could see the Rams pulling it out. It all depends on Stafford is a great quarterback, but he does have games that just look very bad. It depends on what Stafford shows up.
Does he have that clutch fourth quarter?
does he have the killer mentality to put his old faithful darling? Maybe it's not a darling to him. It's not exactly like they had historic success together, but still, it's the team you started off in, spent a lot of your life in.
Gave a lot to the city.
Fan base gave a lot to the city. Fan base, for the most part, was behind you most of the way. Does Stafford have the killer mentality to go and ruin all of those fans' dreams, hopes, and dreams? On the flip side, Goff, playing the team that basically tossed him away because the Rams got Stafford and had to give up Goff and at least one first round pick. I think it was
Two.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I knew it was at least one. So you're going against a team that basically thought you were garbage. You were nothing. They wanted this guy. They think this guy is extremely more valuable than you.
They got to a Super Bowl with Goff.
They got to a Super Bowl with Goff. They did, and then they won a Super Bowl with Stafford. So Goff has a chance to be like, "Hey guys, remember me? I'm not some throwaway quarterback. I'm not some bum. I'm a real NFL quarterback. I can win in the playoffs. This is his chance to prove that. And even maybe he just needs to prove it to himself. But I mean, this is a chance to prove it to everyone.
2 former number 1 overall draft picks.
You already mentioned it. This is probably one of the biggest games of the week. Just the storyline in this one is huge. I think the Lions get it done. I'll take a brief detour and mention that Rams winning is probably best for the Cowboys, but it's more likely that the Lions win.
2 former number 1 overall draft picks too. I don't think that one's been talked about nearly enough. Cam, I know you got a lot of feelings. Okay, I get it. That's not one I would fault anybody for taking the Rams. It's just not my pick today.
I wonder how we're all. So.
Yeah, I kind of figured that as much. This is one I'm interested to see how we take the final playoff game, the Monday Night Football one. How much of this game I actually watch, I have no idea. I'll be honest. I'm glad this is the Monday Night Football game because
Dude, playing on Monday night last year sucked because there's already a lot of tension and nerves going into it.
And then you have to wait the entire weekend.
And then you have to wait for everyone else has already played.
Damn.
You already know who got the win, who got the loss, and you're still sitting there waiting. You're like, man, this cannot come soon enough.
I wonder what
just
that feels like.
Just because everyone's already watching the playoffs, but it feels like on Monday it's like, oh, it's the last one. Everyone's watching, so we can get on to the next round, and it's a little scary, but. Since I'm already talking, I'll just go ahead and say who I think is going to win. I think it's going to be the Eagles. I think the Eagles still have the talent to get it done. The Bucs have been playing well, but let's not pretend that they're some juggernaut. The Eagles aren't a juggernaut either, but this is definitely no easy game, no easy pick. Huh?
I mean, they just struggled last week and won 9-0 against Carolina. So
yes, yeah, the Eagles struggled. The Bucs also struggled against the worst team in the league. So, and there's no one team that has shown you that they're confidently going to win this game. I think, like similarly with the Lions game, I think if you play this game 10 times, Eagles probably win 7, maybe even 8. I could see the Bucs getting it done, but it's going to take a very, very good game from Baker and Mike Evans. The Eagles defense can obviously be had. It is playing very soft lately. But if Baker, for whatever reason, can't show up, this Eagles win should be pretty easy, in my opinion.
Cam?
I'm going to have to go with the Eagles to make my first educated pick. they're gonna want to get back to the Super Bowl. Like they got to the playoffs, and I feel like although it didn't look like they were incredibly efficient or good at the end of the year, you got to also think that this team played in the Super Bowl last year, and were a drive away from winning it. So they might be focused on the playoffs and looking ahead more than they were focusing on then.
Yeah,
If that
this is a
makes
team that,
sense.
for the most part, knows how to win playoff games. Where this Bucks team, yeah, there's a lot of pieces that there's not a lot, but there's a few pieces that was able to make it to the Super Bowl and win with Tom Brady. But after that, there wasn't really a lot of playoff wins for this Bucks team, and Baker has one playoff win under his belt, but that's it. The Eagles, they have the success, they have the talent, and when you get to the playoffs, if you could just flip that switch, the regular season doesn't matter once you get to the playoffs, and you have to have a killer mentality, a do or die, and there's going to be a lot of that for this Eagles team. Jalen Hurts is going to want to play his best game because he's played poorly as of late. He's got a lot of doubters right now. Nick Sirianni, if he loses this game, that it could be his job. So he's coaching for his job, which a year ago would sound insane to say, seeing as he made it to the Super Bowl. But that's reality. Life moves fast in the NFL. I do think the Eagles win, but I would not be surprised at all if the Bucks pull away with a victory. But I'm going to take the Eagles as my pick.
I have one last thing to say.
Yep.
It's about the Ravens. I don't know if you guys planned on talking about the bye teams, but I will
We should.
speak about the Ravens. The Ravens, they made me a believer. There was at the beginning of the season, I continually said, I'm not impressed, and then starting with their game against the Lions, I believe they started to show that they were legit. And it keeps stacking up from there. Aside from complete just meltdowns against the Steelers for whatever reason, and I think if that other loss was the Browns. The last one was the backups, but the first one was miserable.
That was just receivers not catching the ball.
Yeah, and I think if their other loss was the Browns, the AFC North is pretty
Colts.
good. So
they lost to the Colts too.
Well, they would have had 3 losses, so they wouldn't have lost to the Browns then, because they won 13 games, right? Yeah. So 2 to the Steelers, 1 to the Colts.
13-4.
Oh yeah. I can do math.
It's 17, not 16. I still think in my head there's a lot of times I think 8-8, 9-7, 10-6.
Yeah. So Ravens made me a believer. They look good. I think the 49ers are probably still the Super Bowl favorite.
Even though the Ravens beat them in their own home.
Yeah, I think so. But the Ravens beat the 49ers in their own house. The reason I want to talk about the Ravens, Cam, why are you making all that noise, bud?
Sorry.
All right.
Moving around.
The reason that I wanted to talk about the Ravens is because I was scrolling on Twitter the other day and X, and I come across this video, and it's showing a certain left-handed quarterback throwing righty that mirrored the film of Michael Penix Jr. And as it's mirrored to pointing righty, I'm like, that looks interesting. I scroll down a little bit farther, and here's some Lamar highlights. That throwing is almost identical.
Like his
so
motion?
that is my throwing motion comp for Michael Penix is Lamar Jackson.
This is crazy.
It when you look at the flipped video and everyone like Dylan wants to say, it looks like Tua. Yeah, it looks like Tua because he's lefty.
I called him out on that. I said you're only saying that because he's left-handed.
Yeah, let's be a little bit. Let's think
a
little bit deeper than that.
Some damn respect.
I'm
tired of the lefty hate.
When it's flipped, it's not a beautiful throwing motion, but it does look like a Lamar. There's like a weird pushing kind of motion to it.
Interesting.
And when I just saw those two videos next to each other briefly, just a brief scroll down the Twitter page, they look very similar. So that's my throwing motion comp, at least for Michael Penix.
Interesting. We'll get into a lot of draft stuff in the offseason for sure. We'll talk a lot about Penix and the other quarterbacks. I want to wrap by you two and then myself giving our, before the playoffs start, our Super Bowl matchup prediction. And then we'll wrap.
I mean, the easiest one is,
I know it's easy.
if it was always the two best regular season teams, the playoffs would be boring every single year. So I don't know. I don't want to go with the easiest pick, but the way that the two best teams have played makes it extremely hard to see anyone else winning.
That's the other thing. Like, the two best teams are still playing at their best heading into the postseason.
I'll tell you what. Here's what I think. Cam has done a very good job of pointing out storylines and scripts. I think one of the best scripts, if not the best script, is 49ers Ravens rematch from a few years ago. Well, quite a few years ago.
About 10. I think it's coming up on 10 years. Actually, hold on a second. That might be 10 years old. 12.
12 or 11. It was 2012. I believe.
So 11. It's pretty close. But yeah, that's probably the best storyline. I'll tell you what the second best storyline is, though. And that is a Cowboys-Bills rematch.
It is 10. It was in 2013.
You can't deny it, Cam. You can't deny it.
As far
as NFL history goes, if we're talking rematches, Cowboys-Bills would be up there. Bills looking to get some revenge against the Cowboys. Cowboys looking to continue their streak against the Bills in Super Bowls. That's the second best. And if I don't want to pick the most obvious one, which is 49ers Ravens, which is most likely, I will admit, I will pick the Cowboys Bills.
I was wondering if you're going to take the Cowboys or not. That wouldn't be.
I have to, man. I love my team. I have to.
You have to.
What good is it to be a fan if you don't think you're going to win? If you don't think you're going to win, what's the point? So
I get it. I'm hopeful. I mean, I can tell you what the point is, but it's not about me today.
Can you? Do you know what the point is?
No, I don't know.
You're still searching for meaning.
This is true.
Damn.
I mean, there's a TikTok up at Party Chat Sports of you saying, I hate to say this, but if there ever was a time to say this is our year, this is our year.
I will be resurfacing that if it goes my way. That will definitely be resurfaced.
That's on TikTok, at Party Chat Sports. Got some good TikToks actually up, so do make sure you go check out the feed. Cam, before we start the playoffs, what is your Super Bowl matchup? Are you going to go with the easy answer, or do you got something different for us? Damn.
I don't know. I really don't.
The good thing is there's no repercussions if we're wrong. So
no. I mean, there's so many ways this could go. There's
I'm gonna say the Texans.
What?
But did you take the Texans to beat the Browns?
No.
I love it. I love it.
Okay, so that proves my point that there is wrong answers, and I can be wrong.
Well, there are ways to be wrong if you made a pick that goes against your first round playoff pick was the opposite of what your Super Bowl results would be. So,
but my serious one, I'm gonna say Browns and 49.
See, that's not entirely crazy.
Ugly color matchup.
It really would. It wouldn't go with the Super Bowl logo.
I know. I don't trust that Super Bowl logo.
I've seen a couple times like Browns Lions, and I'm like, that's if there's a year.
I'll be honest with you though. I think
it would be
Browns.
This year.
If there are teams that are going to compete with the 49ers, dominant defenses are going to be the ones that do it. Yeah. We saw it with the Ravens. I think if there's going to be a second team, it could be the Browns. I think their defense could give Purdy fits. And I think we've seen that's what you need to
we
do
already
to beat
did
the
see that.
49ers.
We already did see the Browns get pretty
They beat
pissed.
the
They
49ers.
They beat them.
That's
They
right.
did.
Wow.
For me, on the NFC side, I don't see anybody beating the 49ers. The Cowboys, I think, that's going to. I think Cowboys 49ers is the NFC Championship game, but I don't trust the Cowboys to win. It is tough to beat the same team twice in the same year, but I just think 49ers are that team. On the AFC side, for me, it comes down to the Bills and the Ravens. And I will not take the Bills because that will hurt me. So I am going to go with the boring matchup. I'm going to go with the easy out because I think it is the more likely Super Bowl. I'm sure it's the highest odds for Super Bowl matchups. And like you had said a little bit ago, I mean, it's not fun taking the top two teams, the number one seeds. It's kind of boring, but I just don't know who beats the 49ers. And I think the Bills could give the Ravens a fit. The Browns against the Ravens will be interesting, but I don't think the Browns make it all the way. I'm not going to take the Bills to make it to the Super Bowl, so it'd be Ravens for me. The other one I would kind of watch out for is, does Patrick Mahomes have some sort of resurgence here in the playoffs? Because I think you do have to mention him. I don't know if he makes it to the AFC Championship game, though, so do give me the easy answer. I know. But give me Ravens 49ers. It's got to be done at some point here, so that's going to be my answer. I'm sure we're all dead wrong. It's going to be like, I don't know. It might be Chiefs and
If it's
Bucks.
Steelers Lions, like that freaking stupid tweet that whoever sent that in the chat, I'm going to be so freaking angry.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up here. We're coming up. We're close to 2 hours, so we spent a lot of time recapping the NFL season, talking awards, and also discussing playoffs. Hopefully, it is going to be a fun, entertaining playoffs. We've had some good playoffs the last couple of years, some good wild card rounds. Hopefully, we get another good one starting Saturday. Make sure you're staying tuned to the feed. Dylan should be getting some sort of Steelers-related episode up on YouTube. I'm going to try getting a coach-related episode, coach openings, coach carousel type episode for the podcast. So that's just going to be podcast. And stay up to date with us on Twitter or X at Party Chat Sports. Everything YouTube and TikTok is at Party Chat Sports. Again, have a great and enjoy the playoffs. If your team's in it or not, do enjoy it because we only have so much football left. So until next time, see you later.
Go Cowboys.
Oh, Vikings.